Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Whenever this video finds you, I hope you're having a rad time. I'm the Figure Dude, and on today's Work in Progress Wednesday, we are going to be making ECW's Blue World Order. Without further ado, let's talk about some figures. Dude. Welcome back. Like I said, today I am making the Blue World Order. So we have the Blue Meanie, Big Stevie Cool, and Hollywood Nova. And I thought these guys were hilarious as a kid. I thought it was funny that they played off of the NWO. And it wasn't just a spin-off. It wasn't the LWO. It wasn't the NWO Wolfpack. It was the Blue World Order. I grew up with... Eiffel 65's I'm Blue, and just the fact that these guys it wasn't, like I said, it wasn't a spin-off. They just straight up ripped off the NWO with their names and everything. I thought it was hilarious. I'm pretty sure Stevie Richards talked about it on his YouTube channel or his podcast, and was talking about how there wasn't heat with the NWO once they were in the same building, like in WWE together or whatever. But he could tell there was plenty of guys that hated them, probably just talking about JBL. But I'm gonna be making these guys today. I've had these on my shelf for a super long time, and I had the Blue Meanie and Stevie Cool put together, and then Hollywood Nova. I didn't know what I was gonna do for him formula wise, so I ended up picking up an extra Kit Wilson, I think it was, Elite. So I'm gonna acetone those legs so that they're just light blue. And then he wore a few different tight designs, and I think there's one that's got like some white on it. I have to go back and look, but I'm gonna paint those up a little bit after I get rid of the design. And then the Big Stevie Cool, we're gonna have to paint the head sculpts for all of them, but I'm gonna paint his head sculpt, give him a gloved hand, and then dry brush his shorts. And then the Blue Meanie, we're gonna paint up his head sculpt as well. And then I had some cloth goods shorts, but they don't fit all the way because it's an Otis Elite figure. So I think what I'm going to end up doing is kind of like on these Stone Cold Elites we've gotten, where it's kind of like sculpted shorts down here, but then just kind of leave it there. I think that's what I'm going to do, is just sculpt some shorts down the legs a little bit, and they're not going to be very long. And he wore just like short, kind of ripped jean shorts, so it doesn't have to be anything too special either. So I'm gonna give that a try. I've floated between the two. I've seen people use the Figures Toy Company Blue Meanie shorts and head sculpt, and I've thought that looks decent, but I don't want to spend the like $28 or whatever plus shipping just for some cloth goods shorts for Blue Meanie. So that's what we've got here with this trio. Let's get to it. Alright, so starting off first here with Stevie, I'm going to be doing a darker brown. I'm going to use my Burnt Ember, I think it's Burnt Ember or Umber, apple barrel paint, and then I will go over it again with a brighter, like a real brown, I think is the color, to give it more of that dry brush look. So just painting all of the details in for that base layer, and then making it a little bit lighter on top, which is hard to tell here. You'll see it a little bit better when we get to the end. But with the beard here, I took the real brown color, and it's not very dark, so I wanted to do a wash to give him more of a shadow than like a full beard. So I did a bunch of layers over that just to give it that more kind of faded shadow, 5 o'clock shadow look, as opposed to like a thick beard. So with Blue Meanie here and with Nova, I used a pencil. So I used a pencil to draw on the facial hair and where I want the glasses to go, and then I'll just go over it again with paint. I do have the micro pens, Macron pens, but I decided I would just paint it on. It wasn't too hard. With the hair here, I started with this lighter blue, but I didn't like it for the top, so I'm going to come back, use just I can't remember the exact colors of the Valero paint, so outside of the hair color typically, the only thing I use is Vallejo for my paint right now. Then I have to paint his boots, paint his knee pads black, and then I'm going to be trying to figure out how to do the shorts for him. Like I said, I didn't know if I was going to try to sculpt something or if I was going to try to sew them. So I'm going to mess around with a few things and see how I like, if I like how it looks at the end. Otherwise, it's just a little bit of black paint and then some blue shoelaces on Blue Meanie. So not too hard there. It's just figuring out those shorts. Which, if you have the Figures Toy Co. company, I think those fit as well. I do not like that sculpt for Blue Meanie though. And it's fine, but I think this Heteration sculpt blows away that Figures Toy Co. one. Then with Nova, there were a few ways I could go as far as his bandana and tights and everything, but I'm going to go with the just straight blue bandana. I don't have any Hollywood decals, or else I would throw that on there. I can probably print one off, order one, would be pretty easy. With him, I didn't go as dark on the brown. There I am with Stevie filling in the beard a little bit there. The blue here, this is the light blue that I had. It doesn't quite match, so I'm just going to throw in some of the darker blue to bring that closer to the tights color, even though it's really not a huge deal. Most of it's going to be covered up, but I'll touch that up with the darker blue. All right, there we have it with the Blue World Order, and I did go ahead and give a try sewing the shorts for Blue Meanie, and I didn't feel like I had to be that precise with them because he wore cut off Daisy Duke shorts, and they never looked. He was never getting into a members only club with his attire, so I felt like that gave me a lot of wiggle room with what I was doing, and I love how it turned out. The shirt, I do feel like I gave him a little more grace with his mid-drift and the length of his shorts. I thought they were going to be too short when I was cutting them, and I think they're too long. I think that the waist needs to be a little bit lower, and then even the legs could be a little bit shorter too, but I'll come back to it. It's not a huge deal. I'm really happy with how that turned out. I've been waiting to throw these cloth goods shirts on the BWO for a long time now. I don't even remember when I had originally gotten these from Threadhead. It's been a very long time. I've had these sculpts for a very long time, and I'm so happy that I finally was able to finish these up, and I'm really happy with how they turned out. I've seen some people well, maybe I'm just making that up. I'm pretty sure I've seen some BWO customs. There's a lot of different ways you could make them look. You could give them different shirts. Stevie Richards, or who, nope, I got nothing. Sorry, I'm spacing out. I couldn't think of where I was going with that. Anyway, back to mine. You can see the dry brush there on the shorts for Stevie. I think that adds a lot to it. I have been trying to do a better job with painting the head sculpts and painting facial hair. I always feel like a lot of the times it's a little bit too thick for what I'm going for, so I've been watering down paint and doing more of a wash for the facial hair and just doing a bunch of layers over and over to kind of get that washed, kind of get that more of a shadow look as opposed to just like the thick look. Which brings me to Nova. With him, he just had the cheapest, fakest looking fake black beard, so that's exactly what I went ahead and did with him. Really happy with how that turned out. The Pretty Deadly legs worked perfectly for him. I did, so Clarky Customs had told me to use little, instead of using cotton swabs, yeah, is that what I'm trying to think of? Instead of using a cotton swab, to use the, like a circular cotton pad for makeup removal. That worked so much better. So huge shout out to Clarky Customs, excuse me, for that one. That was extremely helpful, especially with some other customs I've been working on. Again, with Nova, that weight belt is a little big, so I glued it in a couple spots to keep it right there. And then with Blue Meanie, back to him, I ended up taking some tape and just rolling it down a little bit to kind of give him that sock look with his boots, and I was really happy with how that turned out as well. That Otis body was just perfect, and I don't know if I had that quite yet when I bought these head sculpts originally. They've just been on the shelf for a really long time, and I'm glad that I could finally get around to them, and I'm really, really happy with how they turned out. I don't even know, I'm not even 100% sure these are on Hedoration's website anymore. I think they are, but I feel like I haven't seen them, or I've just overlooked them because I already have them in the collection. But anyway, that is going to wrap everything up for Work in Progress Wednesday today. I have a ton of stuff. If you've chatted with me, you've probably, like on Instagram, you've probably seen some of the stuff I'm working on. I'm always open to kind of sharing some stuff in advance here, but I've got a ton of stuff on the way. I'm very excited. Hopefully you guys are as well. Hopefully you enjoyed today's episode, but outside of that, please continue to like, share, subscribe, and remember, you can't buy happiness, but you can buy more action figures. Figure dude.